Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you to the BizTimes for the opportunity to join this really important conversation. The words on this screen are more than just a motto for us. They're a vision and an urgent call to action for our city's future. And over the next few minutes, I hope to share more about the state of education in our city, why we believe we're at a critical inflection point, and what we all collectively can do about it. I have the fortune of leading City Forward Collective. We are grounded in a belief that Milwaukee students are our future, and through them, that future is bright. Our students across our city are boundlessly brilliant. They possess limitless potential. We see our job as working to ensure that our schools deliver on that promise, that every child across our city receives a high-quality education at the school of their choice. Milwaukee has one of the most diverse and dynamic educational landscapes in our city. We are truly pioneers in this. Families in our city have access to a breadth of options, a few parallels nationally, from district-operated Montessori schools to innovative charter schools to a rich array of private school options. This diversity should be our city's superpower, a powerful catalyst that drives excellence and opportunity for all. Taken all together, every day nearly 110,000 students use public funding to access a K-12 school. About half of those students attend a school that's operated by MPS. The other half attend schools that are charter or private through the Milwaukee Parental Choice or Voucher Program. Unfortunately, we often spend a lot of time, maybe too much time, talking about the differences here. But in keeping with today's theme, I want to emphasize that we truly are all in this together. As we look across our city, one thing is increasingly clear. Our city's students and families aren't picking their school sector by sector. Across all of our sectors, we see remarkably similar demographics. About 90% of our students identify as students of color. About 83% identify as economically disadvantaged, the old free and reduced lunch number. And while we do see some differences in special education, even there we're seeing increasing convergence. About 14 to 15% on average, and it ranges from a low of about 10 to a high of about 20. This data challenges what's often a common misconception, that our different sectors are somehow serving different kids. I would offer to you that the opportunities and the challenges facing our schools aren't sectored off in silos, and neither can the solutions be. As just one example, our city is experiencing a long-term decline in student enrollment. We're not alone in this. Citywide, we have about 13% fewer students now than we did 2 decades ago. The projections are that this decline will continue and perhaps even accelerate in the coming years. These are not confined to any single sector. Put simply, we have too many schools for the number of kids who are currently attending them across our city. And in the coming years, we're all going to have to work together to address how best to right-size our schools. I want to talk about academics next, but I want to start by not pulling any punches. Our students are in crisis academically. I'm going to use test scores to speak to this because we think they're an important and objective measure. But I also want to be equally clear that we all know, I see many educators in this room, our students are more than single numbers on a page. The education that our students receive is what prepares them to operate our democracy, to contribute to our economy, and to participate in our society. And this academic crisis isn't just about line graphs on a page, it's about altered life trajectories, squandered opportunities, and ultimately a compromised future for our city. Earlier this year, we got results from the nation's report card, NAEP. It's the gold standard assessment for understanding how students are performing compared to national benchmarks. Milwaukee, quite frankly, isn't measuring up. Fewer than 10% of our students met NAEP's proficiency benchmark. We sat in the bottom 3 across all tested grades and subjects, and for Black students, at the absolute bottom. Now, what does it mean to be proficient on NAEP? This is something that's been in conversation recently. I wanted to bring you an example. This is a sample question from the 4th grade math NAEP exam that's about at the proficient level. For those who can't see it, the question requires students to read a prompt, examine the picture of lockers, and identify which students have odd-numbered lockers. This isn't calculus. It's not algebra. I'm a parent of 2 elementary school students and a former classroom teacher myself, and I know that this is a concept a 4th grader should be able to do. Yet, NAEP results indicate that of our students here in Milwaukee, upwards of 90% of Black 4th graders could not reliably answer a question like this. That's 9 out of 10. And while the numbers are most dire for our Black students, they're not much better across any of our other demographic groups. We're not just failing these students, we're robbing them, and ourselves, quite frankly, of opportunity. We're choking off vitality by normalizing and accepting this. And here's the thing, residents across our city know this as well, especially our parents and families. We're just out of the field with some polling work as part of our work to inform and engage our community. You're getting a sneak peek at some top-line findings that we'll be sharing more in the coming weeks. First and foremost, I want to start with the good. Our city's residents believe in the promise of all of our students in all of our schools. 93% expressed confidence in their children's future, and 77% were clear that they wanted to see a focus on the basics. Our pollsters told us these are some of the strongest numbers they've seen anywhere in the country. At the same time, there's an equal recognition that we've got work to do. Milwaukee's residents are clear-eyed about the unacceptable state of affairs. 98% saw serious problems in our education system. 2/3 of those respondents said they were very serious. And there's a deep openness to reform. 74% supported significant changes. We've polled on this question before, and this has been a consistent finding for us over time. Our residents know what they want to see in those reforms: quality and accountability. 80% support the reforms focused in this way. And finally, our residents are looking for our leaders to step up to the plate. An overwhelming 89% agree that it's time for them to take responsibilities. Again, more than half felt strongly about this. The passionate belief Milwaukeeans have in our students is matched here by a clear and unambiguous mandate for action. So I share these data points a fair bit, and I'm often asked, I get it, things aren't great here, but what are other places doing differently that we're not? So we can take advantage of both NAEP and some other policy work to identify some cities that have changed the trajectory and try to figure out what lessons can we take to bring here. We think there are 4. First, empowering families to make informed school choices. We're ahead of the curve here, but we still got work to do to make sure that families have the information that they need in a clear way when they need it, and to make sure that every school is accessible to every kid. Second, empower educators. Those of you who are in classrooms and school buildings every day know the challenges that you face. We believe these decisions need to be made closer to kids whenever possible. Third, clear out the bureaucracy. There's definitely a role for it, but we need centralized functions to focus on setting goals, establishing goals, and setting appropriate guardrails. And finally, and most importantly, everybody has to be accountable for results. And that has to begin with student achievement outcomes. So, how do we take these findings and translate these lessons here to Milwaukee and deliver the high-quality education our kids deserve? We believe there are 3 challenges, 3 gaps holding Milwaukee back. And the good news, again, we know how to act against each of these. First, let's talk about funding. There is a conversation that our schools are underfunded and this is just about more money. And I want to be clear, resources absolutely matter, and in some critical areas, we're not investing enough. I also want to be clear that money alone isn't enough. Without a plan, more money won't have the impact that we're seeking. We have a crisis not just of resources, but also of outcomes. Right now, when a child chooses to go to a school, where a child chooses to go to school still determines far too much about the resources that are available to them. And some children are still receiving thousands of dollars less than their peers based solely on their choices. When you add it all up together, across our city, it's about $182 million, certainly less than we were talking about a couple of years ago, but still a significant gap. And I want to remind you where we started. Our schools, regardless of sector, are serving the same students. It's time to fairly fund all our kids in all of our schools. We're also facing an honesty gap. We're also facing an honesty gap. I'm fond of a quote from James Baldwin: "Nothing can be changed until it is faced." But some recent changes to how data is reported have obscured the picture, and lowered the bar for student expectations. This chart shows a troubling reality, a gap between what you see in gold, which is what our state reports as the percent of students who are meeting standards, and what you see in green, which are those NAEP results that I mentioned earlier before. What you're looking at here is fourth grade math, but we see similar gaps, somewhere between 15 and 25 percentage points across all tested grades and subjects. And it's not just in our K through 8 data. And for our high schools, we use the ACT to measure student outcomes. The honesty gap that we see in high schools resulted in a lowering of the benchmark from 22 to 19, below the standard for admission to most UW system schools. This gap represents thousands of students who are now being told that they're on track when they're not. We're not helping anyone by pretending kids and students are doing better than they are. High standards, accountability, and transparency aren't optional. They're fundamental to any serious improvement effort, and they're what our community is demanding. We need to close the honesty gap. Finally, the most urgent challenge facing our city's education system is the quality gap. Yes, this includes Milwaukee Public Schools and the longstanding issues that have been in the headlines, but it goes far beyond that. The conversation we need to have as a city is how do we, on a citywide basis, address student achievement outcomes and ensure more kids have access to more high-quality schools in every sector and every area of the city. I want to be clear, there are great educators in our school buildings in every sector, and that includes an MPS. I'm a former MPS student myself, and I share the hopes of many that new leadership will give us a long overdue fresh start. Our new superintendent both needs and deserves all of our support as she takes on her challenging role. We also need to be clear that these problems far predate one person, and they're not going to be solved just because someone new is in that seat. We think the roadmap here is clear. Complete the audits, address the findings. It's time to stop hiding from reality. Support new leadership as they make hard choices that lie ahead. And insist on a comprehensive plan for transformation. We also need to be equally clear that the challenges our students face are not just about MPS. It's neither the sole cause, nor can MPS alone be the solution. Nearly half of our city's kids are outside of MPS, and they too are in crisis. Again, many quality educators, many great schools, many of which we're going to hear from later on today. But I offer just a few data points for your consideration. 74 schools across our city, in every sector, each have fewer than 20 students performing at grade level. When we analyzed last year's state assessment results, we found that for every student in a top-rated school, there were 2 classrooms worth of students, 46, in a school with the lowest rating. Overall, that meant 60% of our city school students were attending schools performing below expectations. Our school quality gap is just that, ours. It's across sectors, across regions, across our entire city. To borrow Dr. King's words, we are tied up in a single garment of destiny. What affects one directly affects all indirectly. So the state of education as Milwaukee is clear. We're at a critical inflection point. We have strengths to build on, and beginning with a deep belief in all of our students. But we also face some clear challenges. Unacceptable student outcomes, enrollment and demographic shifts, gaps in funding, in honesty, and in school quality. The choice that lies before us all is, will we allow ourselves to sink back into complacency and tolerate a status quo that's unacceptable? Or will we collectively commit ourselves to the necessary and hard work of transforming our city schools to ensure all of our city students have access to an excellent education? Thank you all for starting that hard work by being here today. Thank you for those of you who are in the classrooms and school buildings across our city every day, and those of you who invest your time and talent and treasure through service in many other ways.